Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our contractor dialogue, making retrofit policy work for people who do the actual work. I know some people might still just be logging in, but we're going to jump right in now that it's already a couple minutes past 11:30. My name is Tanya Ratzlaff. I work here for the Home Performance Stakeholder Council, and I'm just going to give a brief hello and briefly introduce the rest of the team that's on the call today before passing it off to the real person of the hour we have from Efficiency Canada. So a quick hello, you should see some videos up on the screen. We have Brady Sturgeon, our industry coordinator. We have Pabali Shombasu, our program manager, and we have Tatiana Cullen, our coordinator as well. So if you haven't met or said hi to them before, I welcome you to say a quick hi to them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to pass things off to Abby from Efficiency Canada, who's going to be really leading the charge today. Here at the Home Performance Stakeholder Council, we are just happy to provide a platform for the great research that's been done at Efficiency Canada to be shared with you all. And more importantly, we're really interested in hearing your thoughts and your feedback today. So I'm going to finish talking there because we want to give you lots of time. Folks are muted with your videos off, and you will remain that way for Abby's presentation, but we're going to open up into breakout rooms later, have a chance for Q&A, and have an open room dialogue. So there will be plenty of time to share your thoughts and questions. So please stay tuned for more instructions on that. But without further ado, Abby, I'm going to pass things off to you.
Super duper. Let me start by sharing my screen. Everyone can see this okay?
Yes, thanks, Abby.
Awesome. All right, so how do we make policy work for people who do the actual work? I get asked this all the time by, we are Efficiency Canada. We are a research institute hosted in Carleton University in Ottawa, but I live in Winnipeg myself. And when people ask me, how do we make policy work for people doing the actual work? My response to them often is like, do you believe in miracles? Contractors today are expected to perform miracles. And there are three kinds of miracles, the way I see it: a technical miracle, a social miracle, and a financial miracle. First is a technical miracle. Homes are complex systems of systems. Like adding a heat pump to a home is not like buying an electric vehicle. It's like doing an engine swap on a vehicle. Each project is a custom, like bespoke project. And especially these newer systems that we're seeing is on the HVAC side are very sensitive to install quality. So when contractors are trying to do electrification, trying to do deep retrofits, they have to wrangle with these complex systems of a house, and each and every single project is unique. And they have to pull all of this together in a way that results in like better experiences for homeowners. And pulling all of this together in a way is a technical miracle. Next is what I call a social miracle. Earning the trust of a homeowner. A homeowner has to, earning a trust is kind of a social miracle, right? Like you have to form future beliefs about a person. A homeowner has to hold a level of confidence in a contractor and form certain beliefs about them in the future. And homeowners have very little basis for forming this trust, because typically the conversation at the kitchen table between the homeowner and the contractor begins almost combative. Like homeowners are very reluctant to give contractors information because they're worried about being upsold things. Most of the transactions at the kitchen table between homeowners and contractors are one time. Contractors are looking to, typically sell inventory, do a quick sale, and then move on to the next project, especially during, the peak seasons in the summer and the winter. And the relationship is largely seen from a homeowner's perspective as being quite transactional. Whereas trying to do electrification, very few people have the means, motive, and opportunity to do a big $200,000, $300,000 deep retrofit on a home in one shot. Very few homes are conducive to that. Very few people have the budget to that. Very few households have problems that they're trying to solve by doing deep retrofits. And so in order to turn every home into like an electrification project or a deep retrofit project, or to decarbonize every single home in Canada, the current relationship between contractors and homeowners need to transition from transactional to something that's relational and long term. So you're sequencing projects over the long period of time, as and when people's budgets and time and resources permit. And this relationship has to be a relationship of discovering value, collaborative rather than combative, as it's right often is right now. And how do you switch this relationship around? Like that might take what I think would be a social miracle. And then lastly is a financial miracle in the sense that uh, current market dynamics are forcing the relationship between customer, homeowner, and contractor to be competing on price and not on value. Homeowners will, nine times out of 10 will make a purchasing decision about HVAC system or doing an installation or something like that, especially on the HVAC side, during the 2 or 3 warmest weeks or the coldest weeks of the year, during a no heat or no cooling call. And at that time, they just want someone to come in, do a quick, cheap, and easy install. They don't have the bandwidth to plan for anything more value. The only value that's front and center for them is price. And no one wants to fix something that isn't broken. On if you're looking at a roof, you can kind of see it leaking, you can kind of see it deteriorating, you can plan for it. HVAC system ends up being in your basement. Not many homeowners are actively planning for system replacement. So when that happens under duress, they try to get 3 to 5 free quotes, and they default to the lowest quote because that's the only value that they see in front of them. What this leads to on the contractor side is like seasonal feast and famine cycles, right? During the extremely warm winter, summers and extremely cold winters is when a lot of HVAC contractors do their most business. A lot of insulation people do their business during what would be shoulder season HVAC contracts. So there's a certain like seasonal feast and famine cycles in the industry. And especially with in the last 5 or 6 years, what we're seeing is that a lot of shops, especially smaller family-owned businesses, second generation, third generation HVAC and home improvement businesses are struggling with like retaining employees because the industry ends up being somewhat fragmented. Any the worry from a lot of owners is that anytime a good tech gets really good at their job, they go on and start a whole new business. So retaining skilled employees, giving them, valuing them, giving them resources to thrive while still holding on to them, planning for succession. An estimated 30 to 40% of workforce in home energy trades is expected to come up for retirement within the next decade. They think they call it the gray tsunami. A lot of older techs and older business owners are aging out and retiring, planning a vacation to the Bahamas, I'm sure. But what happens to their business? Does it get rolled up into a bigger company? How do you plan for succession? How do you plan for business transition? That is an open question. And because the questions exist, we've seen a lot of consolidation, private equity firms or larger companies buying up HVAC companies, electrical companies, plumbing companies, and amalgamating them into a larger entity, which does have some benefits, but it also comes with some challenges for some kind of employees. And so in an environment where, especially with like in the wider world, our industry doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? In the wider world, with growing interest rates and housing affordability crisis and stuff like that, homeowners are pinching pennies, and so all of these trends are pointing to like sort of like racing to the bottom, competing just on price, and with very little bandwidth for doing electrification or decarbonization projects on scale. Now, we put all these things together, it would sounds like it would take a huge miracle to advance decarbonization in residential space in Canada. And this is what's happening is that as a result of these systemic factors at play, the value proposition for doing any kind of electrification, decarbonization, deep retrofits is kind of shrinking, right? That the value pie is shrinking for on both ends of the kitchen table, both for homeowners and for contractors. Homeowners, if they had the means, motive, and opportunity to slow things down a bit and plan things out over the long term, They could have more comfortable homes that are healthier, quieter, better indoor air quality, make systems last for a long time, take action on climate change, save money on bills. But because of these dynamics, their value is just like shrunk to just one quick install, low upfront cost. I don't care, get something in because my house is freezing and my kids are crying. On the contractor's end, there's so much we could be doing, like indulging in craftsmanship, building bigger businesses, leaving a legacy, being a small business leader in your community, helping people solve problems, having workers that value and that you value and that feel valued, be a champion in your community, champion for climate. All of those things are also kind of squeezed out into just quickly clearing inventory, doing a quick sale, trying to find like high volume, low margin opportunities, since the pie is shrinking on both sides. So if we are to scale decarbonization for us to meet any of our climate change goals, these things need to change, and the change is not spontaneous. Firms will need to like reinvest resources, but when you're already your margins are already squeezed, it's hard to invest resources or money and time into it. You have to navigate the uncertainty of the market, the core functions from how do you do your dispatch to how do you do your intake, inbound calls. All of those configurations have to change, and things that your normal business practices, your sales funnels, your sales process, your tech turnover process, all of these things need to change, and that change will not happen and is unlikely to happen spontaneously. So the question then is, how can policy work for people like yourselves who are doing the actual work? And from our perspective, and we've been talking to contractors around the country about this, is that right now, most of the support from policy comes in the form of stop and start programs. And contractors, we always fall for this trick. Programs come and they create this new, like like a mirage of opportunity, and they dangle that ball in front of you like Lucy does with Charlie Brown. And well, someday, inevitably, programs funding stops, programs stop, and then you have now developed a business model around leading with this program. Now the program goes away and you're left holding the bag. This happens time and time over and over again. We just saw it happen with Greener Homes program in Canada. I moved to Canada 6 years ago. Even before my time, there was a similar program. I'm blanking on the name, under Stephen Harper's government in provinces and states around the US and Canada, around the world. We've seen programs come and go. And it seems like policy is largely focused on giving incentives to homeowners. And inevitably, when they run out of money or resources or ambition, programs go away and contractors end up holding the bag. What we've been doing is trying to look for examples in other jurisdictions and talking to other contractors around the country to think about policies that can work for contractors, help them build better businesses, and have more fun, make more money, generate more value out of the pie. And here are some policies that we've come up with. Now, I don't want to run through every single one of them in great detail because I want I want to be conscious of your time, and no one wants to hear me droning on and on and on. So I'll just give you a quick sort of an intro into each one of them, and then if there are questions, I'll answer them. When we go into discussion, I'd like to hear from you on which of these that you would love to, you think are must see, which of these are kind of nice to have, and which of these are like, oh boy, Abby, those are bad ideas, and those will actually hurt my business. So let's run through them real quick. So I think there's an opportunity to rethink how we do incentives. Instead of giving them to homeowners, why don't we give incentives and rebates to contractors who are doing the actual work and doing a good job of it? If you do proper commissioning of systems, if you do proper sizing of loads when you do HVAC, if you are doing a really airtight home and insulated home, I think rebates and incentives should go towards contractors and in a way that incentivizes good performance. There are ideas floating around in the US called the Heater Act and the Cooler Act that are thinking about making every air conditioner a heat pump because they're roughly similar anyway. So why don't we give incentives and to manufacturers so that they are every time instead of making AC, they just make a heat pump, and over time we slowly phase out ACs and get heat pumps in every homes that can also do heating instead of only doing cooling. Performance standards, most of us will own a vehicle. Your car comes with hundreds of different performance standards on brake quality. I have to get my car safetied every other year. I live in Manitoba. And it has mileage standards and this and that. And again, a car is like the second, maybe the third most expensive thing you can own and buy. Your home comes with very few performance standards for energy. And so what if we had, and like they have in some jurisdictions, homes have to be, before you buy or sell or rent out a home, your home has to meet a certain minimum performance standards. Would that create a market for contractors doing good work? Financing is, home ownership is changing across Canada. Very few people live in their forever homes anymore because homes are not affordable for a lot of people. So people try to get a leg into the market, build equity, and then buy a bigger home, and then buy a bigger home as their family increases. So no one's making a purchasing decision on a forever. Very few people are making purchasing decisions on a forever home. But if they had financings there where they can plan their sequence of retrofits over a long period of time, and not just like a 3-year or 4-year HELOC or 3 or 4-year line of credit that some contractors offer with that thing, and then having an on-bill financing so that your system is financed through your energy bills and not the house receives the financing, not you as an individual. Would that create a new market for doing more deep work, doing higher efficiency heat pumps, and things like that? Modernization tools. I always joke about this, but if you or I wanted to start like a cell phone app to help people in your community find like a yoga center or something nearby, we could go to like the local chamber of commerce, like the Business Development Corporation. You could get business innovation grants, lean business startup grants. They would put you with a mentor. They'd give you $10,000 in early seed funding. So why don't we do similar business support grants for blue collar contractors who are looking to innovate their business and change the way they do their business? Try, maybe, you want to try Home Service Titan or some kind of software or tool just to see how it works in your operation. You want to try new or doing business things. I believe that our country should support contractors in the same way that they support high-tech industries like software and startups. HVAC is also, and HVAC and home performance is also a high-tech industry, increasingly a data-driven, technology-driven, system-driven thing, and it needs, I think, similar kinds of supports. Workforce development, talked about this before, but I think the way I'm seeing it is that it's becoming harder and harder to attract younger people into skilled trades related to homes, and harder to retain good people. And so some kind of support in keeping employees, helping transition business with them. A lot of people will know this, but just because you're a good tech doesn't mean you're a good business owner. So in some Atlantic provinces, they have what they call Blue Seal trade certification programs. So if you have a red seal or if you have a ticket with the trades, you can go get free college education on how to run a small business and things like that. So why don't we empower our smart, technically proficient techs to also be strong business people? Consumer awareness, I joke about this all the time. I don't have my bottle in front of me. You buy like a bottle of mineral water, right? It comes with a label that says 0 calories, zero vitamins, zero proteins. I mean, I knew that, but it still comes with a label. Why don't your homes come with a label? Before you buy a home, you have a very little idea, or before you rent a home, you have very little idea on how much energy that house is going to consume. So if every building came with a publicly available label, would that create a market for people investing, homeowners investing in doing energy retrofits in a way that they can capture value? I'm actually doing renos at my place. I'm in my basement right now, if you can see. I know how much money I put into my reno, and I know how much of that I can recover when I sell the place. But if I get a new heat pump, if I do installation, there's no way of capturing the value of money invested in it. So homes coming with labels could perhaps improve consumer awareness and bring more attention to the value of doing deep retrofits. Coaching, again, this is the idea that I think, we might end up seeing somewhere within HRAI or somewhere else. But I live in Winnipeg, you live in, let's say, Vancouver. Our service areas don't overlap. Why don't you and I sit together, open up our books and say, hey, I spent, X% of my revenue on this. How much are you spending on marketing? What are you doing differently? Some kind of peer-to-peer mentoring. The US has a really good way of doing this. They put, if you're starting out a new small business, they put you in touch with another small business in your own community, but in a different area. So you get paired with a plumber who's been in the business for a long time to give you some kind of mentoring. So something like that to help our business people find their feet on the ground and be more successful would be nice. Aggregating leads. We spend a lot of time and resources burning them on generating leads. So as municipalities and all these entities are like trying to come up, put together these climate plans, is there a way that they can do the hard work of like generating leads and passing them on to their trusted partners and trusted contractors in the area in a way like HPSC is already doing? And data access, before you roll up to a home and then either talk to a homeowner and have them go through the last 12 months of bills and send you screenshots and stuff, would it be easy if you could just roll up to a house and make your life easier by just like downloading the data with the homeowner's consent so that you can right size systems and you can plan for the systems? You can look at what the energy audit was 5 years ago so you don't have to do it again. Wouldn't that streamline things and make your life easier and help you focus on other higher value opportunities? So those would be some ideas around data access. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I think supporting business models, supporting business model transformation, and supporting Canadian businesses in the home trades is important, and it's good for Canada because I don't see any way we are going to get to our climate targets while maintaining consumer confidence in things like heat pumps and insulation and air sealing at the scale and pace that we need to get to without our businesses, Canadian businesses such as yourselves, being successful and proficient and capable at what they're doing. And supporting businesses is good for Canadians because there are very few, the pathways to good middle class jobs and generating wealth is getting narrower and narrower, especially for our fellow Canadians who, for a combination of reasons, choose not to go to post-secondary education. Having stable, reliable roles within your company so that your employees stick it out for the long term and contribute to their own mastery and advancement as they contribute to the growth of the company. And together, small businesses can be leaders in the community that they already are. And all of these things are good for Canadians. So it's important, I think, for policies to focus on supporting people who do the actual work because it's good for Canada and it's good for Canadians. Now, we can jump into Q&A from this, but I just want to take a quick moment. I'm not an installer. I don't have a blue collar background, for lack of a better term, but I spend a lot of time going on ride-alongs with my friends who are contractors, and I spend a lot of time with them. What I want to cultivate is almost an instinct to better understand what the realities of lives look like from a contractor's perspective, so that I can be more useful and my work is more relevant for the daily lives of contractors. And if you want to get in touch with me, on the right is a QR code for my LinkedIn, and on the left is a QR code for the research that we're working on this. Tanya, how am I doing for time?
Abby, you're doing great. We have 5 minutes for any Q&A that might come up before we move into breakout rooms. So awesome. Thank you so much, Abby. What a great presentation. I knew we flew through it, but again, the main point of today is actually to hear from all of you. So that's why we wanted to make sure there was lots of time for that. But we do have a few moments to answer any kind of burning questions about what Abby just presented before we go into discussion. And Abby, there are a couple questions that are come up, so I'll fling them to you. We'll see if you have any comments for them. The first one is, how was the effectiveness of the programs in the US assessed? For example, did peer-to-peer mentoring increase contractors' entry to market? If so, by what percent?
That is a fantastic question, and I do not know the answer to that. That specific thing about how did it increase their entry to market. What I do know is that the program is called SCORE, SCORE. It's an acronym that I'm blanking on at the moment, and it's run by the Small Business Administration. And they've grown in strength to strength, and they've been around for like something like 30 or 35 years. So the longevity of their program and the continued, use of the program, I think shows to me that there is some value I don't know if they have quantified it in so much tangible terms, but I do know that I spent 3 weeks driving around the US and spending time with contractors, and I traveled with I went on ride-alongs with one of these guys in Indiana who was a part of the SCORE program. And the testimonials I heard from everyone said that it was helpful. Now, it's not plumbing and HVAC is not always, apples to apples. There is some translation there, but in effect, it is mentorship. And in effect, it is like, I mean, it also varies from household to household. So some households have been like third generation HVAC contractors or third generation home renovation contractors. And if you've been around, well, your parents and your grandparents are working on it, you pick up things almost like tacit knowledge. It's like second nature to you when you do things. But if you're new to the industry, you're new to the country, and you're trying to get started, there are some intangible things that are really hard to understand without shadowing someone else. And so these are, I think, the kind of things that we're saying. If it'll be helpful, we can try to dig into to quantify it, but I'm not quite sure anyone has done that.
Thanks, Abby. And we'll go to the second question we have here. Was there a survey done to evaluate the current value propositions for both contractors and homeowners?
Yeah, so the pie chart that I showed earlier, that was based on extensive interviews that we did with contractors all across Canada. We tried to get businesses of all sizes in every province around the country to understand what the value proposition was, if given the opportunity to expand the value, and then what the value proposition looks like today. So that pie chart that I showed you earlier, and I can go back to it, or you can see it when it's in the slides, it's a conceptual pie chart. So it's not, so the pies are not like this is 8% and this is 10%. It's a conceptual model. But no, we haven't quantified it in particularly the way that you're looking through a survey. But if it doesn't ring true to you, actually, I would like to know that. Like if you're saying, whoa, hold on for a second, my pie is actually quite different. I would love to hear that. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Abby. For the sake of time, let's move into our breakout rooms. Those were all the questions we had in the Q&A, although I understand some people might have more questions, but let's see if we can move into discussion time. This is how it's going to work. You are going to be automatically assigned into what's called a breakout room. In that breakout room, you will have the option now to unmute yourself and turn on your video, so I encourage you to do that. You will be asked to introduce yourself very briefly. You'll only have 3 to 4 other members in your room. Then designate a note taker who can sort of on their computer or on their phone somewhere just jot down some brief main ideas that your little breakout room is coming up with. And then there are some discussion questions that we're going to put into the chat in your breakout rooms and ask you to discuss. And then we'll ask that you designate a speaker who, once we're done in these breakout rooms, can come back to this main room and help summarize your group's thoughts. So someone that might feel comfortable turning on their microphone in the larger group. And just to kind of set your thoughts as we go in, I'll briefly read out what are the discussion questions. So very generally, it's if you could pick only 3 of the policy types that Abby presented as a must-have, what are they and why? And then are there any policies that are a do not, as in don't do this, we recommend against it, and why? And there's an optional third question if you have time. So what I've done is I've copied the summary of everything you've seen on the screen. So when you get into your breakout rooms, you'll see in the chat there'll be instructions, the discussion questions, and a summary of all the policy ideas that Abby talked about. So I'll just ask for your patience, as sometimes these technical things take a little bit of time to get everyone in the room and for that announcement to come up. So while you're waiting for any of those things to show up, you can just start introducing yourselves. All right, thanks everyone, and you will see some of our team members popping into your rooms as well. So we'll see you soon. Welcome back to those that are coming back from the breakout rooms. We'll just give a few seconds as everyone returns. Appreciate your patience with the technical components of this here today. I know some of you might have been cut off in the middle of some great conversations, so we appreciate your understanding. We are going to ask all of the designated note takers before you leave our call today to copy and paste the notes that you took into the chat. The HPSC will save this chat, and we're going to save all of this great feedback to help inform our advocacy efforts as well as Efficiency Canada's as well. And based on your feedback, perhaps we're also going to organize some more follow-up conversations if it sounds like folks have a lot more to say here. So just checking to see if Abby has made his way back. Abby, if you're back and able to turn your camera on, that's great. Let us know. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is we're going to start by asking for volunteers. It's never fun to volunteer someone to go ahead. So we had 10 breakout rooms, which is a lot of people. So if you were the designated speaker for your room and you are keen to get sharing, please use the raise hand feature. It should be at the top of your screen if you're on a computer, maybe on the bottom of your screen if you're on a phone. Use the raise hand feature and we'll invite you to unmute yourself and we'll ask you to share a summary of your group's chat. Keeping an eye on the time, a brief summary would be great. So maybe choose one of the discussion questions to respond to. And if I don't see anybody raising their hand, then I will start volunteering some folks to please speak out of there. Wonderful. I see a volunteer, Chris. So I'm inviting you to unmute yourself, Chris. So you will still have to click the unmute button and just give us a hi so we can check that we can hear you. Chris Schmidt, sorry. You should be able to unmute yourself, Chris. Chris, I can't hear you yet. So confirm you'll have to click the unmute button to unmute yourself. Still not hearing you, Chris. So feel free to keep trying, but if there's anyone else, we would love to hear from another group. Let's see, who was in group 1? Do we have the designated speaker from breakout group 1? That was the group that was with Pabali.
Yes, indeed. We had Pete in our group and Raiden. Unfortunately, Raiden was left, so I took some small notes. So basically, I had a discussion with Pete Blasco, and he had a very great points about it, and he definitely appreciate these policies, specifically contractor incentive. He really thinks it's going to be very beneficial for the small business owners and our fellow Canadians, as we mentioned. The one thing which he really showed us very nice thing about having a license, just like an electrician has always a license to show to the homeowners, we don't have HVAC licenses before the installation. When the contractors are going to do the installation to any homeowner's home, they cannot show any HVAC license to them. So it is definitely good to have in our radar to have some HVAC licenses in future if we can provide to our contractors. So this is a small brief from the room 1.
Thanks, Pabali. Yeah, and I saw Cindy's comment. It does depend on the contractor. Of course, there's the red seal refrigeration mechanic, and the HPSC is involved in some advocacy work on a new micro-credential for residential heat pump installers as well. So if that's something you're interested in, chime in the chat, and we can try and make sure that you get more information on what's going on there. Great. What about room 2? Do we have anybody from room 2? Did we have any of our staff in room 2?
Tanya, I see Carol's hand is up.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let me invite Carol. I don't see that on my end. That might have been an old one, I think. Carol was identifying some technical issues, unless, Carol, I'm mistaken. I'll allow you to unmute yourself, Carol, if you want to chime in.
I think in the chat it says people are not able to unmute themselves if they're not hosts or something like that.
Okay, that's definitely a problem. I apologize for the technical. Yeah, Mike is grayed out. Okay, it definitely shouldn't be that way according to the settings that we're seeing here. So that's unfortunate. Maybe what I'll invite everyone to do in the meantime, we only have a few minutes left, so we'll try and sort out the technical issue. But the speakers or the note takers rather that were designated for your group, if you could please go ahead and copy and paste the notes that you took into the chat here. And maybe with the few minutes left, Abby, you can start sort of reviewing the notes that people are saying. And then also in the meantime, I'll invite the rest of the HPSC staff. Maybe you can share a little bit from each of your calls as well while you're typing the notes. And thank you, Carol. So Brady, maybe if you could do that, and I'll see if we have a last-ditch effort here to save our technical issues.
Sure, I can share what we did in room 3. We didn't get through all of the questions. We really focused on the first one. So, but most of the conversation revolved around incentives and how we can, basically how a lot of the rebates are confusing, especially, you know, and essentially how maybe we can try to simplify these programs. It might make it a little bit easier. So contractors so far, it sounds like, are appreciating the incentive and also the tools and resources aspect of how investing in technologies can really help, from everything from some quality assurance pieces and QC to also tools that can assist contractors through administration processes and sort of lessen that burden. So that was those were the, you know, and access to funding as well for contractors and homeowners.
I can go next and keep it really quick. We focused on the second question, actually, which we said that would be interesting to share. I think our group, we brought out that you know, in terms of policy, like the best thing governments could do is to focus on like long-term policy direction and certainty, because there are a lot of trade-offs associated with each of the smaller buckets. Because while there are some good outcomes that can come out of you know, having like contractor incentives and having education and stuff like that, but some of it could also be competitive advantage for some contractors. And so, you know, those companies could still lead the way and do consumer education without the need for policy supports. But I think something that came out in terms of the first question was that building labeling on sale would be a good idea, and some kind of business supports for tools and resources so that contractors can try a couple of different things to see what works for the business. Seemed like would be some winning policies from our group.
Thank you so much, Abby. And I do believe we might have resolved the issue now. So Tatiana, maybe if you don't mind, we'll go once again to Chris Schmidt to see if you're able to unmute yourselves.
Hello there.
Hello, Chris. We can hear you. Wonderful.
Excellent. Yeah, our group had a really good chat. The couple hot ones that we picked up on were the performance side of things and the financing. I think those are the two that we spent the most amount of time talking on. Sorry, there wasn't any actual official note taking, so I can summarize quickly and send it off to you. But on the performance side of things, one of the things that we chatted about were blower door tests by contractors in order to check their work during the retrofit, as opposed to relying on the tail end of things. The other one was providing training for contractors to be able to do both basic blower door tests and thermal imaging camera tests. So again, during the retrofit work, they can actually check their work, make sure that they're meeting the targets. On the financing thing, most of the conversation was revolving around the bigger financing side of things, not so much the rebates, but the greener homes and the IQP. For example, IQP is a fantastic program, but it just takes a little while to pay the contractors. Greener Homes is a complicated mess of a program. It's great that it's out there, but it's not really working, in summary. And then the other aspect too was just making it simple for everyone to be able to gain access to the financing and having it last longer. So let's say it might be like a 2-year program where you can pick away at things as opposed to getting everything done at once. And I think that's a good summary. If I've missed anything to the group, raise your hand and add up if I missed anything.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I was just typing in the chat that because of our technical difficulties, we will keep going for at least a few more minutes. But if you have to log off, feel free to throw your final thoughts in the chat. We'll capture that. And we will continue with the mic. I see Joni. You should be able to unmute yourself as well, and you have the floor.
Hi, thanks for hosting this. This is a great conversation. So I am a HPSC and HVAC contractor that has been doing the cold climate rebate installations, and been speaking more as a contractor going through all of these pieces to the group. There's not a whole lot that I can add to what's already been said. They're all great suggestions, and I kind of ditto all of that. All of the potential policies that are out there, I can't really pick three. They're all great. But the one area as a contracting standpoint is workforce development. We are we are a contractor in northern BC, and we have next to no skilled trade labor pool. And we're a husband and wife team, and we are desperately looking for anyone to help us. So we are working with general laborers and trying to train them, and whether or not we're able to keep them is just another challenge unto itself. But then also being met with other contractors that are not skilled in doing these heat pump installations, and having to meet with that type of competition is also really challenging. So it's about training and retention that has been the biggest challenge for us. And so any kind of policy that helps to support us in proper installation and commissioning of the heat pumps, as well as maintenance and repairs after these installations have been put on, that's where we would really appreciate more and more support.
Tanya, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. It's a day of technical glitches for us all. Thank you so much, Jody, for sharing that. I will share that the HPSC is actually just embarking on a new research project on workforce development. So I look forward to being able to share more with everyone here. But then specifically, I've also personally connected with some contractors in more rural areas to send some resources we've recently come across. So I have your email address, Joni, so I will send you some information on that in case it's useful, and feel free to throw it in the chat if anyone else here is interested in those resources as well. Great. We'll just keep going to the hands up to see if there's anyone else that wants to share on behalf of their group. Thank you to everyone that's thrown their notes into the chat. Keep them coming. Just out of respect for everyone's time, again, do a final check if there's anyone who wants to raise their hand and kind of share their thoughts out loud. Otherwise, we are very grateful for anything that's been put in the chat. We have Noah. Noah, you should be able to unmute yourself. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, we were in room 10 here with Trish Jordan, sorry, Colin and myself, and looking over the points there, just trying to pick our things out that we liked. To us, it makes sense that everything's a heat pump, as was stated earlier, because it's only a couple $100 more to turn an AC into a heat pump. So why not take advantage of that year round? The other one that really stood out for us was the rebates going to the contractors. If rebates are going to the contractors, they're not going to the homeowners. So when the contractor screws up, the contractor's on the hook for the screw up, not the homeowner. That really gets a lot of the less legitimate contractors pushed out of the industry pretty quick. They're not doing it right, and this ends up being on them. The other thing we found really interesting, we thought would be a good idea, would be to put the energy labeling on homes, right? It's kind of, it's more of a prestige thing. It's more of a knowing what you're getting into thing. Like, I'm going to go into this home and it's going to cost me half as much to heat this home in the wintertime and half as much to cool it in the summer. That's a no-brainer for me to, go spend an extra, 50 or 100 grand on my $1.7 million home now, right? Because you're going to pay that off in terms of use. So that's a really good point for us as well. Any policies that we didn't like was the one that really stood out for us for policies we don't like is the incentives going to the distributors. Because as a contractor, we're out there, we're supposed to be doing what's best for the customer. We're supposed to be establishing a relationship and doing things right and getting an end result that's going to work. And being able to have a rebate that's coming to us and being able to show that rebate instantly discounted off their invoice, like on that customer facing quote and invoice, is a real bonus for us. If the wholesalers get it, a wholesaler's job is to sell. right? They're sailors. It's really in their name, right? So they're going to push to move as much product as they can. And if it goes to everyone, then it's going to be going to not so great contractors as well, just because the rebates aren't going to be able to be managed as well. That's kind of all we got. The rest of the points we all pretty much liked, but those were the ones that stood out for us.
Thank you so much, Noah. I know we're already a few minutes past, so we'll head towards wrapping up. But Abby, do you have time to hear from one more person? We have Cindy with her hand up. Yeah? Okay, wonderful. So Cindy, we'll hear from you, and then everyone else, please throw your final thoughts, questions, comments in the chat. And I'm just leaving up on the screen our contact information if you have any more lingering questions, and a post-event survey. So with that, Cindy, microphone to you.
So Cindy Garrow, I'm with the Canadian Association of Consulting Energy Advisors. And so I just wanted to I want to touch very briefly on the energy rating on homes, because I think I'm going to say it's with caution, because it is not necessarily an accurate and 100% rating of how that home is going to perform. And you do still need to have the blower door and an energy advisor if you're going to be doing a deeper dive. So, you know, it is a gateway. So I just wanted to put that out there. And it is something that Casey will be communicating quite strongly about, particularly in BC, as you move forward on your, the pilot that is currently being done out there. I do also think that consumer awareness is an extremely important thing. It is overlooked. It's been overlooked in some of the conversations here. A lot of these rebate programs, incentives, look at things in silos. They don't say consumer beware. For example, with heat pumps, it needs to be properly sized. There's nothing in communications when you see that says homeowner, make sure the contractor or an energy advisor is providing you with that F280 calculation and looking at the house as a system and looking at everything all together. And that is not happening in policy. It's all being done in silo, and let's check a box. Okay, we've got heat pumps, so therefore we've hit our, you know, reduction. But I can tell you, out of the greener homes, over 60,000 heat pumps that were installed, I would imagine that the majority of them were not sized properly, and therefore they are not running efficiently. And so we're not checking the box. That's it. Mic drop.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing your thoughts. I'll just leave Abby the final floor if you wanted to share any final comments there.
No, I'm really grateful to HPSC and to all the folks who stayed even beyond time to share your thoughts and feedback on the presentation of the work. And so this research work is just starting, right? Like, so the ideas that I presented today are not my ideas. They're not things that I am advocating for. These are things that I've heard from other contractors like yourself. And if there's disagreement, that's fantastic. And that's great. And so what I'd like to do from here on out into the future is to work with people like HPSC, work with people like you guys, so that you can pick the policies that you like, and then we can figure out how to advocate for things that make the most difference to you. So the research is in some ways is the easy part. Writing reports, some ways is the easy part. It's like, how do we get these policies into the hands of people, decision makers, and how do we advocate for policies that will make a meaningful difference in scaling your business? Like, that's the hard part. And I'd love to be involved in that somehow. And I hope that you think of us at Efficiency Canada as a resource to help you get there. And we'd be happy to be a part of that.
Thank you so much, Abby, and a huge thank you to everyone that participated today, had understanding of technical issues, and those that stayed on a little bit longer. We will be following up with an email to everybody who registered for this event today with some information, I believe slides and potentially the discussion paper itself that it's based on from Abby. And it sounds like there's interest in a few projects that the HPSC is working on, so we'll try and put some information in that. So if you give us a few days to get that out to you, you can look in your inbox for that. Otherwise, our contact information is on the screen if you want to reach out to us. And you can take a moment to answer a few short questions about this event. We'd love to hear what kinds of events similar to this one is of interest to folks, especially to contractors. We would really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. So with that, we'll say a huge thank you to everyone and have a great rest of your day.